Kira Johnson's husband says the 39-year-old who went to Southwest DeKalb High School had a textbook pregnancy. She was healthy and a marathon runner. So Johnson's family never imagined she would lose her life after a scheduled C-section.
Becoming one of hundreds of women in the U.S. who died during pregnancy, childbirth, or soon after becoming mothers. The Fox Medical Team's Beth Galvin is here with her story. It's just tragic, Beth.
Yeah, Courtney and Tom, it's just really still hard to believe. And Charles Johnson has spent the last few years telling his wife's story over and over and hearing from families who say the same thing happened to them. The U.S. has the highest rate of maternal deaths of any industrial country. And Johnson says it's a crisis that we can no longer afford to ignore. Charles Johnson says his wife, Kira Dixon Johnson, was thrilled about becoming a mother for the second time.
We'd even talked about how cool it would be to have boys that were close in age. And so the fact that they were going to be 18 months apart and grow up being best friends, this was everything we had really dreamed about. She was just super, super duper excited.
Kira was 39 and healthy, Johnson says, going into a scheduled C-section April 12, 2016. It's a story he has retold hundreds of times.
Myself and my wife, Kira, walked in to Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles for what we expected to be the happiest day of our lives and walked into a nightmare.
After Langston's delivery, Kira was moved to a recovery area where Johnson says he noticed a problem.
I actually saw blood in her catheter. And so that was the first sign of distress. And so I brought it to the attention of the doctors and the nurses, and they ordered tests and a CT scan that was supposed to be performed stat.
Hey, Langston.
But he says his wife never got that CT scan.
Kira was allowed to bleed internally for more than 10 hours. You got to keep in mind, this was hour after hour delay, denial, this runaround of, well, we might take her back for surgery. We're waiting for this, and never being able to get a straight answer about why my wife was not getting just the minimum basic care. But all the way up to the time that she was going into surgery, Beth, I really honestly thought that they were just going to fix it and she would be right back.
Instead, Kira Dixon Johnson died in surgery just 11 hours after Langston was delivered.
When we walked into the hospital that day, the thought that Kira wouldn't walk out to raise her boys, it never crossed my mind. But as the weeks went by, I began to hear stories of other women who had horrible birthing experiences and other women that were dying in childbirth.
Stories, Johnson says, just like Kira's.
It's a woman that went into the hospital, who was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. Her or her family expressed concerns. Her concerns were denied. She wasn't prioritized. And by the time they did something, it was too late.
Each year, 700 women in the U.S. like Kira Dixon Johnson die during pregnancy, childbirth, or in the first few months of their baby's life.
And it's even more troubling and disturbing is the fact that African-American women are dying 4 to 5 times as often as their Caucasian counterparts.
The disparities that we see, the inequities that we see, are rooted in a lack of basic care and attention, especially to women of color.
So March of Dimes CEO Stacey Stewart and Charles Johnson have teamed up to push Georgia lawmakers to do more to protect women and their babies, calling it March for Change.
We need more and more care providers who can help mothers have healthy pregnancies, especially around midwives and doulas. In Georgia, Medicaid has been extended to 6 months postpartum, but we need Medicaid extended at least 1 year, because 1/3 of all deaths happen for new moms after the baby comes out to 1 year, out to the baby's first birthday.
Charles Johnson and his boys have moved back to Vinings, closer to family. And in April, Langston, who's never known his mom, will turn 6.
One of the most difficult moments I think I've ever had on this journey is my younger son, Langston, asked me, well, where's mommy? And I explained to him again, well, mommy is in heaven. And him saying to me, well, I want to go too. Can I go to heaven? And so there's nothing that we can do to bring Kira back. There's nothing that I can do to fill that void in her life, in our life. But what I can do, and what I'm committed to doing as long as there's breath in my body, is doing everything I can whenever I can to make sure that we send other mothers home with their precious babies.
And Charles Johnson created an organization in his wife Kira's honor. It's called For Kira for Moms. He has also worked with Congress to get a bill passed to give states funding to investigate maternal deaths.